massive stacks of steam, horse-drawn buggies boosted by little mini engines, Victorian children kidnapped by time-traveling professors. Welcome, ladies and animals, once more as we delve into the world of punk subgenres, and today, as you might have guessed, is steampunk. Until 2019, when CDPR gave us Cyberpunk 2077, I'd argue that this was the most popular, or at least the most pervasive, subgenre of punk out there. You can see steampunk all over the place, from cartoons and movies like Disenchanted or The Wild Wild West, to video games like Bloodborne, The Order 1886, Assassin's Creed, and even famous books like H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, one of my favorites growing up. But what makes the genre unique? Besides the emphasis on steam power or Victorian influences, what separates steampunk from diesel or cyber? Well, stick around and let's find out the answer to just that. As always, if you like this video and want even more, feel free to subscribe to the channel and comment down below to let me know what you think. Like all the other subgenres of the space, steampunk is an offshoot of cyberpunk, popularly coined in 1987 by Kevin Jeter, who sought a catch-all term for stories that use a romanticized science, like previously mentioned, The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. In a lot of ways, many of the stories that steampunk is applied to is more about the speculative histories or alternate paths of the world, rather than a detesting cry from some overarching establishment like we see in cyberpunk, or against some order of arcane magics, as was a fear in the recently industrialized age. It's antithetical in the way that they vary so incredibly differently from the original pace of the setting, but not in a way that is more purposeful compared to what we see in diesel or cyberpunk. Kind of like where solarpunk was antithetical in the way that it viewed the future in an alternate light, steampunk almost does the same, but for the past. Stories that focus on alternate histories like a transatlantic tunnel, Hurrah, which saw a version of Britain with flying coal-powered boats and atomic submarines, all packaged in a society that retains their Victorian accent. Not necessarily tying it to steam-powered, the aspects you might expect. It's more so a look at how these kind of science fiction technologies might have changed the world retrospectively. But aesthetically, steampunk has become really popular due to its nature to be replicated in cosplay or craft. Think of these other punks. If you wanted to do a cyberpunk cosplay, you're talking complex LEDs, custom clothing, and trying to recreate cybernetic devices that don't exist. Diesel punk is a hard one to master. Look at any Gears of War cosplay, and that's easy to see. Except for Dez. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. It looks fucking amazing. Atomic punk is almost exclusively Fallout, so if you're not a fan, it might be hard to get into. But steampunk, just take a Victorian or Western costume and slap some copper gears, a few leather straps, or a pair of goggles on there, and boom, steampunk. Arthur Morgan? No, steampunk Morgan. Jacob Fry? No, steampunk Fry. In just a small amount of effort, you can create something that perfectly fits into a wholly unique genre. And for the most part, they blend in with other Victorian or Western costumes, making it a perfect standout from any Ren Fair gatherings. Not to mention the very authentic stylings of the genre also informs a lot of creativity for DIYers. Using a lot of polished brass, copper, stained wood, and more natural methods or materials lends itself to the repurposing and reusing of things that instantly makes them steampunk. There's also a small subtext of steampunk that ties into the many monster stories of the Victorian age. Vampires, demons, werewolves, Frankenstein, and more to all take a subtle spotlight in the more fantastical or darker stories under the steampunk umbrella, even though these have almost nothing to do with the setting or technology on the whole. I guess Werewolves of London is just really catchy. As we touched on briefly, steampunk is pretty plentiful in media. Movies of all sorts that often play into the more magical or fiction sides of the genre. Van Helsing's monster hunting in pseudo-Victorian style. Howl's moving castle portraying a magical world of wizards who can summon strange abilities, partnered by the explosive technologies. With as straight of a face as I can imagine, Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. That is not a joke, that is not a parody, that is a real movie. Look it up. It's amazing. Of course, the Disney classics in Atlantis and Treasure Hunter showing off some awesome sci-fi tech based on a more colonial age. Hellboy with the Clockwork Army and other gothic nonsense, although with the themes it could pass for Steampunk, it just depends on who you ask. Speaking of teetering the line, one special video game that fits both the arcane, get it, and stylings of a dark steampunk world and dieselpunk at the same time is Dishonored, a world of magical assassins who use the power of a dark figure, the Outsider, to teleport, grab, rip, and stab their way through city streets, striking from the shadow and dominating in a world that is very timeless in its setting. The whale oil and technology feels very dieselpunk, but the cultures, character design, and layout of the world feels much more like steampunk in nature, especially with Corvo's mask. I mean, look at this thing. On the edge again, we have BioShock Infinite. Whereas the first two fit firmly into the decopunk theme, a subsection of dieselpunk, Infinite goes into the sky as a more steampunkian adventure with the mystic, dark, and analog clockworks often found in the space. Some of the more darker artistic games like Lies of P and Bloodborne who also take advantage of the Victorian, analog, old London stylings to the nth degree. The Order 1886 obviously was a title that tried explicitly to be steampunk with werewolves, Tesla coil guns, and being set in a Victorian London all helps a lot too. For me, it's at least the go-to example of bread and butter simplistic steampunk in gaming. Now, if we head into the personal opinion area of the video, steampunk is pretty low on the list for me. Compared to dieselpunk, cyber, biopunk, and even solarpunk, it just doesn't really do it for me. Now, does that come to an intense aversion to the genre? I don't think so. I love Dishonored, I love Hellboy, I love Howl's Moving Castle and The Time Machine. The dark subsect of steampunk is one I especially enjoy, but I think it's just mostly played out. Where Atomic Punk has the issue of having no standout examples aside from Fallout, I think my main issue with steampunk is that many of these stories just feel so much the same. Like they all use the same formula and styles when it comes to the architecture and design, which I know is what makes all of these part of the same genre. That's how it works, but I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like in dieselpunk, you can have Gears of War, Wolfenstein, and Mad Max, which all stand out on their own and fit very well into the genre at the same time. But looking at Order 86, Dishonored, or even Lies of P, I feel they're all very samey. It's just something I can't put my finger on, but they all sit in the same exact definition of the genre, and it makes it harder to explore new or intricate ideas. Anything new that's steampunk, you can pretty much assume what it'll be right off rip. You can look at this trailer for this steampunk game that was revealed at Xbox's show last year, and tell me that this doesn't look like every other steampunk project you've ever seen. Cloaks, Victorian clothes, this stupid little British mustache. It might just be the absolute stranglehold steampunk had on millennial hipsters in the 2000s that led to a litany of cosplays and designs finding their ways into everything from my Instagram feed to D&D to whatever else that makes it. It just makes it feel tired and overdone. Not that I hate it, it just feels stagnant, unoriginal when I see new IPs in this genre. They're not bad, it's just like trying to read The Wheel of Time after Lord of the Rings. It's good, I get that it's good, but it feels like I'm reading a slightly alternate version of the other one. But anyways, this is the end of the video. Let me know what you think of steampunk, what's your favorite example of it, and anything else down below. Please like and subscribe if you liked this and want even more. As always, our Colorful World merch is still up. This is all for charity, so proceeds from each and every shirt, apron, mug, anything is going to be donated to my local food bank. So if you'd like to help me support a good cause, get your wonderfully soft shirt down below. And remember, stay cool, have fun, and be awesome. Buster out.